Hello and welcome to Totally Abstracted. Today I want to talk about something that's come up that really caught me off guard. Facebook memories have been showing me art that I was sharing 3 or 4 years ago. At the time I remember feeling genuinely proud of it. I was excited, I posted constantly, it all felt alive. But looking at some of it now, my first reaction was one of embarrassment, judgment, a kind of, why did I ever think this was any good? And that bothered me. Not just the judgment itself, but what it implied. If I can feel this way about work I once believed in, what does that say about the work I'm sharing now? Will future me feel the same way? Will I look back in another 3 years and feel the same uncomfortable twist in my stomach? It's a strange kind of feeling. You start questioning everything. Not just the old work, but your ability to assess your own work at all. If you were so confident then, and so wrong, how can you trust your judgment now? So I found myself scrolling through those old posts with this uncomfortable mix of nostalgia and embarrassment. There were pieces I shared with such conviction, captions full of excitement. And now all I could see were the flaws. It felt like looking at someone else's work, except it wasn't someone else, it was me. I shared those thoughts with my community, and the responses really shifted how I see this. One comment in particular made something click. The idea that the confidence mattered, just as much as the work itself, maybe even more. Because without the confidence, the excitement, then I would have stalled. And that really made me think. If past me hadn't been enthusiastic, hadn't felt good enough to share, I probably wouldn't still be making work now. I might have given up all those years ago. I might have decided I wasn't talented enough, wasn't improving fast enough, wasn't getting the response I hoped for. That confidence, even if it was based on work that now makes me cringe, was the thing that kept me going. It was the fuel. It was the voice that said, yes, share this, put it out there, keep going. Improvement doesn't come from waiting until things are good enough. It comes from doing, maybe sharing, responding, and then repeating. It comes from the accumulation of hours and attempts, from the feedback loop of putting work into the world, maybe seeing how it lands, from the slow incremental shifts in your eye and your hand that only happen when you're actively engaged in the process. Confidence isn't proof that the work was perfect, but it was the engine that kept things moving. And when I really thought about it, I realised something else. I don't actually want to judge that earlier version of myself, because she was having a great time. She was learning fast, she was curious and energised, and she couldn't wait to put things out into the world. She wasn't burdened by the knowledge of how much she didn't know yet. She hadn't developed the critical eye that would come later. She was just making things and sharing them and enjoying the process. And there's something beautiful about that. That enthusiasm wasn't naive, it was necessary. It was the exact energy required at that stage of the journey. Because if she'd had my current sort of eye, she probably would have stopped altogether. The gap between taste and ability would have felt insurmountable. But her taste and her ability were more aligned, and that gave her, me, room to breathe. Room to experiment. Feeling differently now doesn't mean the old work was wrong. It just means that my eye has moved on. My standards have shifted. And that's what growth looks like. So it's not about the old work being bad and the new work being good. It's about the distance between them. The fact that there is a distance. That I can look back and see how far I've come, even if that feels uncomfortable. And growth isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it is looking at your past self and feeling that cringe, that gentle mortification, that sense of, oh no, people saw that and I thought it was good. But that discomfort is actually a gift. It's evidence that you've moved, that your standards have risen, that you're not the same artist you were 3 years ago. So instead of cringing when these memories pop up, I'm trying to see them as evidence of momentum. Proof that I stayed in the game, that I kept going long enough for my taste to outgrow my past work. I'm trying to reframe those Facebook memories as markers on a path, little flags showing where I've been. Not destinations I failed to reach, but stops along the way. And maybe the goal isn't to avoid ever feeling embarrassed by old work. Maybe the goal is to keep moving forward, so that feeling does happen from time to time. Because if you never look back and think, I do that differently now, you probably haven't changed much. You're probably still making the same work with the same limitations and asking the same questions. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's a conscious choice. But if you want to grow, if you want to develop, if you want to look back in 3 years and see a different artist than you are today, then you have to accept that today's work might someday make you cringe too. And that's okay. That's the deal. You make work with the skills and taste you have right now. You share it with confidence, even if that confidence is fragile or fluctuating. You let it be what it is, and then you keep going. You make more, you learn more, and you develop your eye. And eventually you look back and feel that uncomfortable twist again. And instead of it letting it stop you, you recognise it for what it is, proof that you're still moving. I think that's something worth holding on to, especially on the days when confidence feels fragile. On the days when you wonder if what you're making is any good, when you're tempted to compare yourself to others who seem further along, when you look at your current work and feel that familiar doubt creeping in. Remember that the confidence to keep going matters more than whether the work is objectively good. Because good is always moving. Your definition of it will change. Your standards will rise. Your taste will evolve. But if you stop sharing, stop making, stop putting things out into the world because you're waiting to be good enough, you'll never get there. You'll never build the skills or develop the eye or accumulate the hours that lead to the work you actually want to be making. That's why I'm starting to share my portrait work. It's exploratory, it's experimental, but it's what I'm drawn to right now. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my latest piece there. I shared a YouTube short yesterday too. Will I cringe in 3 years? Maybe even in 3 hours. Who knows? But I'm sharing because I'm making, developing and growing, and it's all part of the journey. So embrace the confidence, even when it feels unearned. Trust that future you will be grateful you kept going. And when those Facebook memories pop up, try to meet them with compassion instead of judgment. Because that earlier version of you, they were doing exactly what they needed to do. They were showing up. They were making work. They were building the foundation for who you are now. And that's something to celebrate, not cringe at. Thank you for listening today. Have a great week. And as always, keep things totally abstracted.